10 random magic cards rated day number 72, everybody. Happy Wednesday, I believe. Or if you're watching this in the future after Wednesday, happy whatever day it is. I hope you have a good day, man. Let's see what the first card is. It's a mountain. These always get a 5 and they don't count, but really cool art. Super cool secret lair drop art here that I particularly like. It reminds me of The Shining. Definitely. I'm going to have to give this, as far as the art, like a 9. Pretty good, but doesn't count. Let's move to Tempest of Light here, originally printed in Mirrodin. 3 mana, 2 and a white, destroy all enchantments at instant speed, strictly better. Mostly Tranquility here. That's good. We've looked at Tranquility on stream before, well, on this series, and I think I gave Tranquility like a 5.9 or something, like a 6 if I remember correctly. And honestly, I probably should have pulled back on that score a little bit. Probably should have been like a 5.4 or something like that, but I'm still going to remember what score I gave Tranquility. And considering this is instant speed, my goodness, I actually think this deserves like a 6.1. I really do. Destroy all enchantments at instant speed? Are you serious, brother? Why does white do like everything better than green? Stop. Like it even does big creatures better than green at this point in history. Stop. So this is like a serious 6.1. I think instant speed on this is kind of ridiculous, honestly. But I'll move on to Giant Badger. Everyone remembers Giant Badger, right? This is actually originally printed in Harper Prism book promos. I remember these. I remember this. Now that I see the art, I remember this. $9 because of scarcity issues, but also printed in 8th edition. And it's like 7 cents if you want that one. But this is 3 mana, 1 and 2 green for a 2/2 Badger. If you assign this as a blocker, Badger gets +2/+2 till end of turn. So kind of a 3 mana 4/4 on the defensive. Pretty good for back then. Whenever back then was. It looks like Homeland's art to me. And I will put it in that. Actually, I think it was around that timeline. But that part of the timeline. But yeah, this is, I mean, wouldn't see play in standard. It'd just be like a drafty thing you might sometimes play. It even has like a pretty not important creature type, like at all, but in your Badger deck, it's pretty good. This I actually think is like a 2.9. Actually, I'll give it a 2.75. It's just not a good card, but when you put it in the context of back then, 3 mana 3 mana 4/4 on defense. All right. I'll kind of take that. Safe Haven, originally printed in my favorite set, The Dark. This is a land. You can pay 2 and tap it and remove a creature you control from the game. Play this ability at instant speed. Exile target creature you control. That's how they write that nowadays. During your upkeep, you may sacrifice Safe Haven. If you do, return each card exiled with Safe Haven to the battlefield under its owner's control. Okay, so Safe Haven is kind of bad by today's standard. I give the Christopher Rush art a 9.5. I love this art so much. It really is. But it really is fantastic. But Safe Haven can still be played. It really can. You can still take advantage of this card in Commander if you're playing like the almost all sweepers deck, or you just have a creature with a, enter the battlefield trigger that's really strong that you want to repeat, It does cost a land to do that, but if you can like engineer a situation where you get 2 creatures under Haven and then like just bust the Haven during your upkeep, then like maybe. But I still think Safe Haven is, first of all, not incredibly safe because there's like Strip Mine, Wasteland effects like that going around in Commander, especially CEDH, effects like that. But in a casual game of Commander, I could still see, creating a situation where the card is good. So mostly for uniqueness sake, although there are other cards that do stuff like this, just not often in the land slot. I'm going to give this card the honorary 5 of the day. I still think Safe Haven is like somewhat playable. I really do. But By the Dark, I love you so much. Next is Dragon Loft Idol. This is 4 mana for a 3/3 gargoyle. It's an artifact creature. As long as you control a dragon, Idol gets +1/+1 and has flying and trample. So 4 mana 4/4 Flample. If you got a dragon, this was originally printed in Dragons of Tarkir. Much maligned set that I love very much. I really do, man. This thing was a beast in Limited. And any deck could play it, and there were dragons in every color, so you do the math, right? Just a fine little card for that environment. And even in Dragon decks and Commander, I could see it never getting a slot. Bet you not that's not how you thought that sentence would end. Usually I praise cards like this a little bit too much, but I have to admit this is like a 4 mana 3/3. It's a hill giant at the bottom. That can't be go for the throated. So, whatever. So it can't be terrored. But I'm still just going to give this like a 4, which is probably way more than it deserves. But, I like its face. We'll move on to Rampaging Ferocidon. This card got banned while it was in standard, didn't it? Why? We still don't really know. This is 3 mana, 2 in a red for a 3/3 dinosaur with menace. Players cannot gain life. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, Ferocidon deals 1 damage to that creature's controller. So yourself included, don't play too many creatures after you play Ferocidon. But honestly, if you're playing Magic correctly, you're dealing damage to your opponent faster than they're dealing damage to you. You're playing mono red, so even if you have to play a creature or 2 after you play the Ferocidon, probably no sweat. But obviously, if you're pressuring your opponent's life total, then them playing creatures is kind of makes them a little sweaty, bub. But sorry, so sorry about that. But yeah, if they play blockers, it hurts them. Not good. They can't gain life to get out of that situation. They have to remove this. And obviously the menace is, a form of evasion on your 3 mana 3/3. So not a bad card. And it did get banned. A little puzzling, but it did. So I'm going to give this, especially considering the global effect on it. I mean, this card's like $6, $7 still to this day. It also triggers Enrage on your dinosaurs. I feel like I should probably get that in, But, well, no, it doesn't. Sorry, I don't know why I thought that. Scratch that, reverse it. But yeah, this is, God, like a 6, I think. I'm pretty sure Ferocidon's a 6. Just that global ability. 2 global abilities they're both kind of sick. So yeah, I think this card's commander playable. And you need things to fill out the 3-drop slot in your Gishath deck or like whatever legendary dino you're playing, you know what I mean? So fine card, man. But we'll look at Buvac the Grandiloquent. I knew I was going to screw it up. Buvac the Grandiloquent here coming up next. This is originally printed in Jumpstart. 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a 1/4 legendary human advisor. If an opponent would mill 1 or more cards, they mill twice that many cards instead. Ridiculous, right? It's $20. And it's been reprinted. 4 different printings in the same Ravnica Remastered set, plus a list printing and the Jumpstart printing. So, it probably needs a few more printings, but it's still an adult dollar bill, a $20 bill to own this card. Just nuts. Pretty sick commander. I don't think you're going to be playing with too many other mill commanders besides Bruvy. So let's go ahead. And yeah, it's narrow, whatever, but it's also a super unique commander. And there are other mill commanders, but there's not a whole lot of excuses to play them if you could play this card. So Buvac gets like a 6.5 or something like that. Just very scary commander. It really is, man. Well, I'll move on to Valeris Stance. Good Magic card. Originally printed in Fate Reforged, which is when we started the YouTube channel. 3 mana, 1 and a white for an instant. Choose 1. Target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater is the other mode. You'll find a use for one or the other of these modes, man. Save a guy for 2 mana instant speed. I guess modern day is a little bit more expensive than we want it to be, but when it's stapled to a removal spell that kills, in a modern context against Sheldrids and Bezas and stuff like that in standard, the card's good, but it was just in standard and didn't see a ton of play, surprisingly enough, but still a workable removal spell in Commander. And again, if reprinted into standard, depending on the situation, this could be a good Magic card. So I don't know, man. I like Valeris Stance a good bit. As far as removal spells go, pretty good. So I'm going to have to give this like a 5.16, Well, let's give it a 5.2 flat. I think this card is on the level, man. That's really good modality, and I prize modality. But I'll move on to Smugglercopter. It's banned in Standard Day, apparently. Smugglercopter is 2 mana for a 3/3 vehicle with flying, and when it attacks or blocks, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Cruise for a single mana. Seems kind of tame. A lot of people didn't really catch during previous season that this card was going to be so good in Standard that it would have to be banned, not immediately, but like pretty quickly. Like this card didn't last more than a few months in Standard before everybody got sick enough and it was very obvious that the card was broken enough to just get rid of this. It's ridiculous. Every single deck can play it. It's an artifact. Every single deck can find something to crew it because it crews for 1. It's evasive, right? It's not a combat damage trigger. It's an attacks trigger, and it's a blocks trigger, which is kind of sneaky, but mostly this triggered on attacks when it was in Standard. And it became a format where whoever went first played Smugglercopter on 2 and won the game. how it usually works, you know? So just, really, I remember Smuggler's Summer or whenever this was, you know what I mean? Hard time to be a standard player because, you know, you just roll your eyes in every single game. You think Deep Cavern Bat on every single turn 2 of every standard game is eye rolly? Try playing against Smugglercopter in literally every game of Magic. Really took over the format for a while. And out of respect, I'm going to give this card a 6.5. Wonderful, wonderful Magic card, but I'm not sure it sees all the play in the world anymore, but it's still a healthy little sum to order a copy of, like $3. So obviously it's around. It's around. But we'll move on to Goblin Arsonist, a single red mana for a 1/1 Goblin Shaman. When it dies, you may have it deal a damage to a creature or player. So kind of the originator in some ways. Mog Fanatic is really the originator of like goblins and stuff being able to do this, but this is the originator of this specific like line of text, you know what I mean? Like on a 1-drop. And we've seen those all the way up until Duskmourn, the most recent set that came out as I record this video. There's a black 1-drop enchantment creature that does this. It's a 1/1. When it dies, it's, you know, not a creature or player, I don't think, but I think it's like player loses a life, you gain a life. The devil tokens have this ability. You know, there was a card that was like a red-black hybrid 1-drop a couple of sets ago that did this. Just, we've seen iterations of this effect for a while, but this is kind of one of the first real ones that did it. And it's a good card. Still a good card to this day in like your Goblins deck as a 1-drop. But I think if you're optimizing Goblins, you don't play this card. But if you just have a handful of Goblins, you want to build a Goblins deck, this is still pretty serviceable. So again, out of kind of respect, I'm going to give this card a 4.9. Even though I don't think it's quite there nowadays. It's more like a 4.4 or something. But again, I still think Goblin Arsonist can rumble. I do. I think it can get in the ring, do some stuff for you. We'll move on to Caller of Gails, the apparent last card of the day. We've been zipping through this one. Originally printed in Zendikar. A single blue mana for a 1/1 Merfolk Wizard. Pay 1 and a blue and cast Jump. Target creature gains flying till end of turn. You have to tap this down to do that. I don't think I mentioned that. Yeah. Activated ability is tap down. 2 mana. Flying. So probably mostly just like a limited playable card, but actually in limited, this would have been a decent card, you know, give your bomb flying, it's a mana sink, some relevance on your 1-drop creature. It's got a good creature type, you know, like I could see playing this in limited or even cube. If you're trying to do like a simplified sort of powered down cube that still has decent effects, this would be a good call. So I don't hate this card. I give it a 4.0. No, I won't. No, this card doesn't deserve that. I'm mostly looking at it in the context of limited, but like you'd never play this card in like Commander or anything. Probably. I don't think. So I'm going to actually give this like a 3.2. I think that's more along the lines of what it deserves. But that is all of the cards for today, everybody. Yeah. Well, I guess that's the average time for a video. I guess I went on about a couple of cards for a long time. But Smugglercopter was a pretty long-winded one. But anyway, guys, that is it for Wednesday. And again, if you're watching this in the future on a later date, that's it for today, I guess. Should probably say that every time. Anyway, I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye.